when I paint, I really feel like I'm trying to recreate that feeling that I had as a kid of expansion and of play and of spontaneity and of largesse, big, bold.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another inspiring episode of Beyond the Palette. I'm your host, Whitney Rosenson, owner of Art Dimensions Online in Los Angeles. And my guest today is artist Amadea Bailey, a Yale-trained and very talented abstract expressionist painter from the Art Dimensions roster. And besides being on the Art Dimensions website, I have posted some of Amadea's incredible paintings and images of her studio here in Los Angeles on my blog. So be sure to check those out. They are a feast for the eyes. Also, please rate and review this podcast. You can throw me some stars if you like. All of it will help to expand our reach. And you can do this on Apple Podcasts. All right, now to the show. Hi, Amadea.
Hey, Whitney. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
You're so welcome. Welcome to Beyond the Palette.
It's my great pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Let's dive in.
Okay.
Did you always feel that painting would be a part of your life?
I started painting when I was a junior in college, and that I was at Yale University as an art history major, and I went into New York City and I saw a retrospective of Monet's late water lily paintings that really blew me out of the water and had a huge impact on me. And it was after I saw those paintings that I decided that I wanted to start painting like that, big canvases, colorful, etc. And so when I went back as a senior at Yale, I signed up for painting, sculpture, drawing, and basically that's, except for write my thesis, that's all I did all year. And really, I have to say, within a couple months in, I knew like this was going to be my life. It was a pretty immediate thing. I'd done a lot of acting as a child, and up until that point, thought I was going to become an actress. And I was getting disillusioned when I was at Yale with theater and acting. And right at that time, painting came into my life, and it was just such a yes that I didn't have any idea, of course, you don't at that age, how it's going to evolve or whether I was actually going to continue my whole life. But in fact, I had a very strong feeling then of, oh my gosh, this is it. I mean, there was such a feeling of expansion and of joy and of discovery that I was kind of hit over the head, like head over heels. So I was what? I was 20.
20? Yeah.
That's, most of my adult life.
Yeah. Okay. What are you up to these days in your studio?
I have a pretty strong body of work that I've been working on from the beginning of the pandemic, I'd say. I have 9 really what I think consistent, strong paintings that I'm super excited about and actually want to show. I'm looking for a space where I can show them because I want them to be seen all together. So it's a body of work basically that started about the beginning of the pandemic.
What size are the paintings?
Well, I mostly paint large. I think Whitney, but they're all, I think the smallest one is like 70 or 80. I haven't measured. 70 by 60.
Okay. So yeah, they're all large.
And up. Like they're mixed media. They've got a lot of collage, a lot of layers. There's a lot of movement. And that's what I'm up to. And I'm at a point now that I really want to show them.
Yeah. And for those listeners who don't know who you are, You mentioned Yale, but for those listeners who don't know who you are, can you give us a brief snapshot of your journey to where you are today?
In order for me to talk about my journey, it's important to mention my childhood, which was rather unusual. I was actually born in Germany. My father was a professor and he was getting his PhD at a little university there. And from Germany, I lived in Switzerland. And then I think really the most dramatic part of my childhood was that when I was between the ages of 5 and 10, I lived in East Africa with my family in a very tiny village about 20 miles outside of Nairobi. And it was a pretty spectacular time in my life. I felt very close to the elements. It was very primal, if I can use that word, very sensual. I was living under a big sky, and I was very close to the earth, and I rode horses in the bush, and I went on safari. I mean, it was pretty extraordinary. Plus, we were there during Kenya's independence from the British. So it was a very exuberant time. And
Definitely.
so I think that those formative years of that, what I just described, which was really pretty amazing, formed me, is partly why I chose to become a painter. Because when I paint, I really feel like I'm trying to recreate that feeling that I had as a kid of expansion and of play and of spontaneity and of largesse, big, bold,
Expansive.
expansive, which is what I hope to achieve when I paint. I hope
You do.
that I aim to do that in my work. And I think it's in my bones because that's what I lived.
You chose painting, not photography. You didn't choose sculpture. Do you feel that painting captures that necessity better than other mediums? Is that why you chose painting?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, first of all, I'm driven by emotion, which I think I've expressed, and I'm also driven by color. Color is a very driving force in my life, in my psyche, in my work. I consider myself to be a colorist. I'm an abstract expressionist, but color is a really important and very inspiring for me as a human being. Color and color relationships and creating emotion with color. And also, painting is very tactile. So sculpture, but painting is more immediate. Sculpture takes time and it's not as immediate. And painting is more, I love working with materials and making a mess and finding images and covering them up, and all those things happen with painting, not with photography. I mean, sometimes I incorporate photographic images into my work, but they end up being painted over and they become more textural really than anything else.
Right.
I'm a painter.
Yes, through and through.
Through and through.
Do you ever get painter's block? And if so, how do you deal with it?
That's a great question. A couple different ways. Over the years, one of the things that's helped me with painter's block is working on paper. Like I get out, I generally work with big brushes and quite a lot of liquid paint in my work. So one of the ways I get out of being blocked is getting out big sheets of paper and big brushes and just playing, just making the arm move, like getting the energy moving through my body. And inevitably something comes out of that. But I have to be in a place when I do that where I have no expectations. I'm not looking to create anything. It's really just like warm up, like dancing exercises.
Yeah. So it's all about the movement.
For me, yes. I'm not a professional dancer, but I've been dancing my entire life. And movement is a very important aspect of my work. I'm a very kinesthetic person. So painting, believe it or not, is as kinesthetic as visual for me. I mean, it's a dance between the two, but the kinesthetic is equally as important as the visual. So I like oftentimes just make a big splash, which is a movement, which I don't want my head to be involved in that process. And then I step back, and then my eye becomes engaged back and forth between those two. So and the other thing I want to say is that I'm a surfer, and oftentimes surfing also helps if I feel blocked. I mean, being in the water and feeling the ocean and being communing, with Mother Nature uh, on a pretty regular basis, plus the adrenaline of surfing. Just I always feel high after I surf, even in cruddy waves. But yeah, so physical activity, getting out big pieces of paper is a physical activity. And then even whatever, running, surfing. And then one last thing I'll say also, which is very important to me, is travel.
You travel a lot. You go away like couple months a year, right?
Try to, yeah. I do. And I don't paint when I travel at all. I don't draw. I don't do any painting. It's really a time for me to just absorb new colors and new sensations and see new things, and then I come back recharged always, and I end
Awesome.
up always painting something that really excites me when I come home. Big part of my getting unblocked is stopping and doing something else so that I can recharge.
I understand that. It's essential. Where you just recently were away, you went to Italy, right?
Oh, yes. I just got back from a just spectacular month in mostly, well, I was in Bologna studying Italian for 10 days, and then I was traveling around Puglia, which is the very southern part of Italy on the Adriatic coast. And it's just so visually stunning. These whitewashed houses on top of hills, and the water is the color. You just can't even describe the beauty of the crystal turquoise water,
Oh,
and the
so envious.
olive trees that are in this red brown earth that actually reminded me of Africa.
Okay.
So can you see how that would be an inspiration for an artist
Definitely.
to be imbibing,
Surrounded. Yeah.
surrounded by beauty morning, noon, and night?
So maybe for those listening, I'm going to have on my blog, like I said, images of Amadea's paintings, images of her working in her studio, and maybe I'll put up a few images from Italy so you can see the areas that she's describing. And who are some of your greatest influences?
I would definitely have to. Well, first Monet. I've already mentioned Monet. Monet is the artist that really got me going out the gate. And then after that, it was the abstract expressionists, who to this day I revere. Both the first generation and the second generation, meaning de Kooning, Rothko, Franz Klein, later Joan Mitchell and Helen Frankenthaler. Although, yeah. And then I love other artists too, but those are my heroes. Seriously.
What do you show in your home? I'm just curious. Do you only show your work, or do you have a collection of other?
I don't have a very big home, so no, it's all my own work, I have to say. If I had 5 times as much space, I would have other artists in here, but I have to say I don't.
Well, to be surrounded by your paintings is pretty special, so that's great. Okay, we talked about surfing for a minute, but let's get back to that. How does surfing affect your work as a painter, besides just getting out there and moving and unblocking yourself? Let's say if you have painter's block. I know you use a lot of blues in your paintings. Is that directly related to the ocean at
Yes,
all?
yes, 100%. I've had a love affair with the ocean since I was really small. My grandmother had a beautiful house in Long Island on the water, and I spent a lot of time with her as a child and actually until she died, basically through until I was about 30 something. I've always loved the ocean, and I it's my happy place. And beyond surfing, it's bigger than that. The ocean has always been a place of comfort, of inspiration, of solace. So water images, I mean, if you look at my abstract paintings, you could definitely see water imagery and many different forms of blue. Blue is definitely a centerpiece of my work. Not only, I mean, I have a lot of other colors, but I come back over and over to blue. And because also, in addition, I'm in the water, immersed in the blue, but also seeing the change of light when I'm surfing and all the myriad colors beyond blue that are actually out there.
That really gets in your work.
Yeah, it does. The ocean is just a huge factor for me in my life in general. I could never imagine living away from it.
Living anywhere but California.
Or, I mean, yeah, actually.
Okay. Well, me too. What do you hope people will get from your paintings?
I hope that they have an emotional connection to my work. My work is mostly emotionally driven. As an abstract expressionist painter, I'm driven by my inner life and my emotions, my dreams, my memories. So, and I'm a pretty emotional, don't always show it, but I have a lot of emotion running through me, which thank God I have a place to channel it. And so my deepest wish is that people respond with their heart and their body and their soul to my work, because that's what's in it. And my collectors do in fact tell me that that is something that they're drawn to, the emotion of it. And also I've been told many times by collectors that the more they look at my work, the more they see. And I think that's because I work on paintings a very long time. Not always, I work quickly, but then I stop. Then I go back quickly. But a painting from beginning to end can be well over a year, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. But that means that there's layers and layers and layers as I'm kind of maneuvering and finding my way through the painting. There's a lot of elements there, and you definitely don't see them all at once.
At once, yeah.
And so people that live with them, I'm hoping that there's a certain richness and a certain depth that is communicated through my work. That's an important part of my enterprise.
So articulate, so wonderfully said. Thank you for that. And I just want to wrap up with I hope this is not a depressing question, but has COVID affected your practice at all?
Not really. No, because I'm pretty disciplined and I'm a full-time painter and that's what I'm doing. I mean, it was like, don't get me wrong. It was hard because I'm already have a life where I'm alone a lot. And that was just exaggerated in COVID. And that was difficult because, I'm used to working alone at home, but then I could always go out and have human interaction and communication. So I don't think it really affected my work. It was just a challenge for me on a personal level.
Like for me too. Yeah.
Like for everybody.
For everybody. Yeah.
And I'm so glad it's really mostly over.
I know. Me too. Last question. What are your favorite materials to work with and why? Do you work with acrylic and oil?
I am now working with acrylic. I started off for probably 25 years as an oil painter. And then I switched to acrylic for a lot of reasons. It dries faster and it's more healthy. But you know what I love is collage. I love building up textures in my paintings, and I like bringing different papers, and when I travel, I bring back maps and I bring back little, things from my travel in some paintings. Not all my paintings have collage, but a lot of them do. And so that is always very exciting to me. Even fabrics. Like I just love beautiful fabrics and color. I mean, it's all that stuff that I mentioned earlier. Collage just adds so much richness because it's thicker and it's got design on it,
Character. Yep.
character and words. So I would say collage and oil sticks, and there are these watercolor crayons that turn to watercolor, Caran d'Ache crayons. I think they're from England. I don't always work with them, but I really love them because it's like drawing with a crayon, but then when you spray it, it turns into like watercolor.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
So those are the things these days that I'm excited about playing with.
Well, Amadea, this was so fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and for being a guest on the podcast. Everyone out there, be sure to check out Amadea's fantastic paintings on artdimensionsonline.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Art Dimensions and at Amadea Bailey. Thank you, everybody. And to Amadea and all my listeners, I hope you have a very productive week and happy creating.